Alright guys, it's Moogalore here. I'm back again with our second video game review, and today I'm going to be reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie. Just got finished seeing with my family over the weekend, and how do I feel about the movie? It was incredible. I really enjoyed this movie. I had a blast with it, walked into the theaters, enjoyed myself from the very beginning of the movie all the way up to its climax, enjoyed myself. And the producers really did a good job with the movie. But before we go into the review, just want to let you guys know that there will be spoilers, but at the very end of this review, so you'll get my overall thoughts for those who don't want to be spoiled. So I'll be definitely warning you guys at the very end when the spoilers coming in, so you guys can walk away from it if you don't want to hear the spoilers. So let's dive right into it. But before we even get into the characters, his plot, and everything of how the story flowed and everything, let's talk about the movie's performance, because over the weekend, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie had raked in $71 million, which was definitely a big plus from it superseded the first movie, which brought in $58 million. So it seemed like that everybody really wanted to go see this movie, and I really appreciate that. And despite what the critics have said in Rotten Tomatoes, the audience scores speaks for it all. And there's the 97% from where I'm telling you guys right now. Who knows how it may change, but right now it's standing at 97%, and it truly deserves that, because man, this was a family fun film, and also a fan service, a love letter to Sonic fans and those who also enjoy the video games altogether. So let us talk about the characters first. We have to dive into the characters walking into the second film, and how much these characters have pretty much evolved since then. Now, first of all, let's just address the human characters. What I appreciate about this movie is that the director and the producers know what the fans want. They want to see more Sonic. So this time, the humans take more of a backseat compared to the first movie. So as far as the human characters concerned, Tom, pretty much the officer Tom, played by James Monster, he has done a really good job. And even though that his role isn't as big as in the first film, he still had much of an impact on the overall cast, mainly more specifically Sonic. And of course, his wife Maddie, which is also starred by Tika Sumpter, she's also really good, alongside her sister Rachel, who is also played by Natasha Rothwell. And I must say, I give it to those two sisters. They really did a good job. One heck of a funny sequence, which you've seen in the trailer, which is at the wedding, which we'll talk a little bit more about that. They really did good with that. And also, my boy Jim Carrey, oh my god, he done a magnificent job. Of course, his performance was good in the first one, but he really stepped it up the ante with the second one, man. Like, it's really a joy, it's really a treat, is because you get a double whammy of nostalgia coming from Jim Carrey. For the simple fact is, Jim Carrey in this movie is in his element. The old school Jim Carrey, the very funny Jim Carrey that I grew up and known and loved since A Living Color, and also Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The Mask. This is the Jim Carrey that's in his element, and he really enjoys this. And what I mean by the double whammy of nostalgia is because we get old school Jim Carrey, and he's playing as my favorite video game villains, which is Eggman, Dr. Robotnik. He really did a good job bringing this character to life. And I remember when he first announced him as Eggman, as Robotnik, I wasn't really too sure, because I mean, it's Jim Carrey and we talking about Robotnik. How can we mix those two together? But he really embodies his character, and I really love his performance. He really done it up a bit, and you got to see what he does, you know, at the very end of the movie. It was really good. So now we got the human characters out of the way, and I really don't want to go into farther human characters, because that also spoil a couple other elements that's in the story. But let's talk about the Sonic characters, the characters that we all came to the movies to see, the characters that the movie is supposed to be focused and centered on. And first, we wanted to talk about Knuckles. We wanted to address the elephant in the room. Idris Elba, the voice actor that's voicing, or the actor that's voicing Knuckles the Echidna. And everybody, when he was first announced, I remember when the poster first came out and he posted on his Facebook and his Twitter that he's going to be voicing Knuckles. Everyone was skeptical. Everybody didn't know how to feel. And then we actually saw the first trailer, and people was like, okay, we still don't know yet. We gotta see more. Well, I can pretty much just relax and calm you guys down. Idris Elba, that brother did a good job, man. I really enjoyed his performance. I really enjoyed the acting behind this character, because we know Idris Elba. I mean, he's pretty much an underrated actor. He's really good in whatever movie that he plays in, and the fact is that he embodied this character, and the version of Knuckles that he's playing is more of the warrior type Knuckles, the Echidna warrior. So he's more so pulling from that rather than the most current version of Knuckles that you see in the more modern games, where they make him more like comic relief and they make him more of a joke. No, this is more of a formidable Knuckles, and yes, there's comedy coming from Knuckles, but not in the way of how they portray him in modern Sonic media, but it's more so from the ignorance aspect, the warrior aspect, kind of like how Thor is in the Marvel MCU movies, where, you know, he comes from Asgard, and the way he interprets and how he views things from an Asgardian perspective on Earth life, you know, and this is how Knuckles pretty much do it when it comes to him and his world. He sees everything from the Echidna warrior aspect, which makes everything really fun because he believes in honor, he believes in respect and the way of the warrior, kind of like how Vegeta is as well when it comes to Saiyan pride and everything. And that's what really makes it fun with the character, and he's really had a good time with the character, and you can tell as he's going through the movie, Idris Elba, you can tell that he's getting more and more comfortable with the character and voicing this character, and I really want to see how well he does moving forward, if he ever decides to pursue any more voice acting and animation and stuff, because man, he really nailed it, and he has that strong, powerful voice, and it fits Knuckles really well. And I kind of hear that original Knuckles that you would hear in Sonic Adventures, and he really pulled it off. So good job, brother, good job. You did a good job, man. So of course, we gotta talk about Tails. With Tails, the character that they really teased us with at the end of the first movie with the midstream credits. I was really looking forward to see how they was going to interpret Tails into more of a movie aspect, and they really did a good job with Tails. I really enjoyed Tails as a character. We actually got a chance to go through and check out Tails' intelligence, and also his weird and wacky inventions that he developed that helped Sonic and them along their way in the journey, which was also really good. But the main thing I really want to talk about is the voice actress, Colleen O'Shaughnessy. The thing is about Miss O'Shaughnessy, Colleen, the thing is, when it comes to video game voice acting or anime voice acting, it's pretty much hard for those voice actors to pretty much get into the big blockbuster films, the Hollywood films, to do voice acting for those. So they pretty much typecast in that little genre or that little box, which is anime and video games. Well, the thing is, what I appreciate what the director and them have done, like I said, this is a love letter to fans. This is how you respect the source material, or just respect the culture around the fandom, is the fact is that they allowed Colleen to still carry on and continue the voice of Tails, and I know she must have definitely appreciated that. Now she's along the echelon of these Hollywood stars. She's in a blockbuster film, so she pretty much moved up a level. And like I said, I don't know her other histories outside of Sonic, but I know that she's always been Tails for numerous of years, and to see her in a blockbuster film, I really appreciate that. So kudos to Colleen. She did a real good job voicing Tails. Then of course, Sonic, Ben Schwartz. Like, what can I say about Sonic? Like, this guy, he's in his element. He's very familiar with the character. He's very much more comfortable with the character. And what I like about Sonic in this movie is the fact is that you see the growth of the character. He starts off as immature, and as you see in the trailers, him trying to be a hero and everything like that. And eventually, as the plot thickens, he becomes a much more mature Sonic the Hedgehog. The Sonic the Hedgehog that we really want to see, that we know and love from, you know, the older games, and we finally get to see Sonic actually develop into that character. So Ben Schwartz did a good job. A lot of people said they didn't really like how Sonic jokes too much, his jokes and stuff, but it really wasn't bad at all. Like, he was really much more tamed in this one, and it was in his comedic timing was even better in this one. So I really appreciate that. So now that we got the characters out the way, let's talk a little bit about the plot. I'm not gonna spoil anything. I just want to talk about the stuff that you actually seen in the teaser. Now, the thing is, what I appreciate about this is that the producer and the director, they already knew what the fans wanted to see. They want to see a Sonic movie that's about Sonic and his friends versus Eggman, and that's exactly what they have given us. Now, the thing is, the movie really had such a great way of how they paced everything, because at first I was nervous. I didn't know how they was going to approach the pacing, because once they announced that Knuckles is going to be in the second movie, I said, wait a minute, we just got introduced to Tails at the mid-credits, and then they throw in Knuckles, which I was hoping that Knuckles was going to be in part 3. So I was getting kind of nervous. I was like, yo, I want to be catered to as a fan, but I don't want them to cram everything in just to cater to fans, but then you have a sloppy film. But I can safely tell you for sure that no, they have done a good job with the pacing and gotten the chance to develop Knuckles and Tails within the same movie of introducing both of these characters. And I was really glad to see that. And of course, speaking of that, what they have done was, after they pretty much introduced, hey, this is what the plot is going to be about. Here's the human characters. They're going on this vacation because Maddie's sister is being married, and this is at the very beginning. Sonic sends them through the ring so they can go travel over there so they can go to the wedding, and that was it for the human characters at that moment. And then the rest of the film just pure on Sonic and Tails and Eggman and Knuckles, and which was really good. They dived right into it. Now there is also a lot of Easter eggs that can be found in this movie, which was also really fun to spot. So if you're a Sonic fan, you'll spot it. Like, for example, the coffee shop from Agent Stone, is named Mean Bean, which is from the Mean Bean Machine games, from the Dr. Robotnik Mean Bean puzzle game. And you can also find that game in Sonic Mania as well. And then they had a Sega Genesis manual, and there's also, you guys are going to love this, there's also callbacks to Sonic Heroes Easter eggs as well. The game Sonic Heroes, you'll know what I'm talking about once you actually see the movie, and that was pretty dope. And then also the stage references from games. There's going to be a sequence where Sonic's going to be running through a sequence, and it just reminds me of the games, and it does specific nods and callbacks of what you will experience, as the player playing as Sonic through these levels. And they did a lot of nods to that, which I thought was definitely pretty good. But as far as the interactions between Eggman and Knuckles and Sonic and Tails, oh my god, it just brought a lot of nostalgia to me. I had all these butterflies in my stomach, because this is something I never thought I would live to see on the big screen, the interaction between Eggman and the others. And I thought it was really cool, and I like how they was able to start off at the very end of the movie, where Eggman was stuck at the mushroom place, and they picked up off right where it left off at. And I thought it was pretty cool, and you got a chance to see how Eggman got back to planet Earth, which was really fun. It was funny and it was neat at the same time. Now the thing is, Knuckles' backstory, they gave us a little bit of backstory about the character, and it's a little bit different than what they have in the game, but it still has that connection to the games in some way, which is also pretty cool. So you could tell that they're actually establishing an actual Sonic cinematic universe, because his past is definitely going to somewhat play some role much later, because they did announce that Knuckles is getting a spin-off. So they are going to create a Sonic expanded universe, which is going to be pretty cool. Now, as for Eggman's motives and how it connects with Knuckles, they also did a good job with that. And if you're a fan of the Sonic games, then you already know how that plot between Knuckles and Knuckles and Eggman works out, which is also really good. And also Tails, the introduction to Tails is something else that I didn't see coming, or how simply it was explained. And I think a lot of fans are going to, how can I say it, I don't know how they will feel about the introduction to Tails. I think that's more so from a fan's point of view, where they set up high expectation because of how the movie ended, and then once you get into this movie, you find out it's much simpler than what how the end of the first movie had made it out to be. So it might be like an on and off depending on how you look at it, but it was perfectly fine with me, because it's still catered, and it's pretty much as simple as what the games were of how Tails and Sonic and how Tails can, come together and came to be. And then as far as the Master Emerald is definitely going to play a big role moving forward in the Sonic universe. I love the introduction of the Master Emerald and how it came to be, and what was the origin behind it and everything. I thought was pretty cool, and how it was pretty much on Earth the whole time. So that's a pretty cool nod, and especially once you make it to the end of the movie, you'll definitely know what I'm talking about as far as the future of the Master Emerald. So, and there's definitely going to be a setup for a Sonic 3, best believe. And all I can say is stay to the mid credits. When you get to the mid credits, and if you're a fan of Sonic, you're going to know what I'm talking about here. But there's some things, some dialogue that's said, and it's going to be a phrase that's said, or some lines that's said, that's going to just trigger you automatically. And you like, what? We're going this direction? What? And so that's all I can say. I'm not going to spoil it, but that pretty much sums up the non-spoiler for this film. This film was a definitely well directed, well produced. Everyone had fun with this movie, you can tell. Everybody was in their element. And if you're not a fan of the games or a fan of Sonic in general, this was still a competent family film. You can take your kids, you can take your brothers, your sister, your nieces, nephews, you can take your family to see this film, and you'll walk in and then walk out and you will have a good time, because the movie definitely ended on a high note as well, and you will remember the end. And it was really good. It was really fun. So what would I give this film? I would definitely give this film an 8 out of 10. It was a really good movie. I enjoyed it all the way, and this is definitely a standard for video game movies moving forward. If they ever make other video game movies and other directors and other studios decide to do this, if they don't follow this criteria and these standards that Paramount had put together for the Sonic movie and how to respect video game source material in the fandom, then they deserve whatever criticism that they get. You cannot go below this standard. You have to meet this standard or go above this standard from this point on. This is the blueprint. It shows that if you respect the fans and you respect the source material, you will yield fruitful results. And that's all I have to say. So that's it for the non-spoiler review. So we're about to head into the spoilers, so I'm gonna do a countdown in 3, 2, 1. Okay, here's the spoilers. Now I'm not gonna stick around long for the spoilers. I just want to address a couple of topics here when it comes to the spoiler. Now, first off, there was 2 scenes that people talked about, or that critics and some fans really criticized, and because the movie had a runtime of 2 hours, and people feel as though if they shaved these 2 scenes, that it wouldn't affect the story in any way, and it would actually make this a movie even more balanced as far as time. And I disagree with that. Now, these 2 scenes that they're talking about is the danced off scene in Siberia in Russia, and the wedding scene, which you have seen in the trailer. Now, talk about the dance-off scene. Now, the dance-off scene was where, of course, Sonic had finally understand what his destiny is, and he had to find the compass that would lead them to the Master Emerald. So, in order to get the compass, they had to go to Siberia. They go there, Sonic and Tails go into this tavern, and they see a bunch of people in there. And it ends up being a funny scene. Now, a lot of people said the scene was unnecessary. It really wasn't needed. All it did was draw out the time, and they could have got rid of it. But I disagree with that, for the simple fact is that this scene was a time to build development for both Sonic and Tails' dynamic between one another, and also the scene had also got a chance to actually elaborate farther onto Tails' technology and his inventions, because he actually used one of his inventions within the dance-off that they did. But it also showed that Sonic and Tails end up forming a bond after the dance, which, like I said, I was really scared when they first announced Knuckles to be in the film right after they just introduced Tails, because I thought it was going to be screen time taken away from that development between the relationship between Sonic and Tails. And this was a moment right here where he's able to elaborate and build more time on that bond and camaraderie between Sonic and Tails. So this scene was definitely necessary. We definitely needed that. We definitely need that time for Sonic to establish that relationship with Tails, and I really appreciate that. Now, as far as the wedding scene is concerned, a lot of people said that the wedding scene lasted too long and was another unnecessary scene that they could have just erased, and they feel as though that they only made this scene to give the humans something to do. And I totally disagree with that as well, for the simple fact is that this wedding scene was also a way to introduce more story and more elements to the Sonic lore. And what do I mean by that? Well, for starters, the wedding was actually a sting operation from the government, And you later find out once Sonic and Tails crash the wedding, you find out that it was all a ruse the whole time. That this whole wedding was a lie. And Rachel, which is Maddie's sister, ends up finding out that her husband is part of the government, is part of this agency called Gun. Now, if you're a Sonic Adventure fan or a Sonic fan in general, and you play the Sonic Adventure games, you know the intricate role that Gun plays in Sonic Adventure, more specifically Sonic Adventure 2. So the wedding had introduced Gun. So this was a scene to not only make the humans relevant to the Sonic 2 movie, but it also introduced the other aspects to the movie and added to the lore, which is the introduction of Gun. So this scene was definitely necessary, and plus it elaborated and it built more of that camaraderie between Sonic and Tails, because Tails was injured. Maddie had to come in and help Tails recover because she worked with animals and stuff like that. She's like a doctor or whatever. So that also brought more into that, and it also allowed Tom to talk to Sonic, because Sonic had that conversation earlier in the film about when it's time for him to step up and be a hero. So it was a perfect time to make that connection, and that's what that wedding scene has done. So I disagree with what the critics were saying and what some of the fans were saying about the wedding scene. It worked. They did a good job with that. Now, let's talk about Tails' backstory, and I talked about this in the non-spoiler section. Now, when it comes to Tails' backstory, a lot of people didn't like how most people said it glosses over it. Tails' backstory and his explanation of why he wanted to meet Sonic, and I would say this, that more so came from our expectation as fans, because the way the movie had ended with Tails showing up, many people were speculating maybe Longclaw sent Tails there to meet with Sonic. So everybody was drawing their own speculations. So when we walked into this movie, it come to find out it was much more simpler than that. Tails just looked up to Sonic, and Tails been looking after Sonic the whole time in his home world after that signal that Sonic had radiated to his planet, and his computer picked it up. And ever since he witnessed him beat Eggman, he found somebody who was unique and different just like him, because he's the only fox in his community and in his home world that has two tails. So he's always been an outsider. So to see a hedgehog that's not only blue but also super fast, he found somebody that's just like him, and he's been following him. And ever since Eggman had escaped and Knuckles had freed him, that also sent the signal off, and he seen it, and he had to intersect that and get to Sonic before they get to him. Kind of like how Trunks had went to the future, came from the future, and had to get there and to meet Goku before Frieza show up. It's kind of like something like that. So it made sense. He looked up to him, he looked up to Sonic, and always been following Sonic ever since. And he finally got a chance to meet up with Sonic, and that's when they built that relationship. And it's that simple. And if anything, it was loyal to the games, because in Sonic 2, the game, that was the same way. He was always in the background and admired Sonic and the things that he'd done, especially against Eggman. And then when Sonic 2 came and Robotnik had came, and he was a much more bigger threat, had a bigger arsenal, Tails stepped in and wanted to help Sonic. So that was all to it. It was that simple, and they stayed faithful to it, and it worked out. So I didn't really see an issue with that, but many fans found it. Many critics and some fans found an issue with that. Then the other issue that some fans had was with the Master Emerald. Some people were saying that it was just there. The Master Emerald was just there, and it was just like not much details, and they just like gloss over a lot of things. And I just found that to be dishonest too, because they really explained a lot. And they actually, the Master Emerald plays a role in the Echidnas and also Longclaw's tribe, and how those two has always been fighting over the Master Emerald. And the Master Emerald, for those who get their hands on it, and if they're evil and they have bad thoughts and imagination, it could be the end of the universe. And one of the Echidnas was one of those threats, and Longclaw and her tribe took that and then hid it on planet Earth. So it made much sense. And also the Master Emerald is a combination of all the emeralds, Chaos Emeralds, together to make it. And then by the time at the end of the film, we got an introduction of Super Sonic, and Super Sonic used the Master Emerald, defeated Eggman, and then he gave up the power, which broke the Master Emeralds and gave us the Chaos Emeralds. And then Knuckles was put together the Master Emerald. Now the Master Emerald is its own entity, while the Master Emeralds are scattered everywhere. So it had its purpose, and I found it pretty cool, and I found it pretty fine. And the last spoiler I want to talk about is, of course, the mid-credit scene. And what happened at the mid-credits? Well, like I mentioned before, Gunn was introduced because of the wedding scene, and now that we have Gunn, we already know the relationship that Gunn has in Sonic Adventure 2. And the thing is, they decided that Eggman is a threat, and he can no longer receive funding from the U.S. government, so we have to get rid of him. So as they deleted all Eggman's records and files, they found a hidden record, and this record dated back 50 years ago. And if you hear 50 years ago, and you're a Sonic Adventure fan, you already know what that means. That's right, Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow the Hedgehog is the next big villain coming up in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie. And I wasn't expecting them to go this route, and I don't know why, when they already gave us Knuckles in part 2, which I'm totally fine with. I trust them because they did a good job balancing everything out. I wasn't really expecting Shadow at all, so maybe we not only get Shadow, but we'll probably get Amy in the next one, who knows. But Shadow the Hedgehog is the next big villain. I can't wait to see how they play this out, and I love how they showed him in the capsule, and then you see the capsule raise up, and then his eyes open up while he's in the castle, and it glows red with electricity and everything, and that was pretty cool. Like, that was awesome. But that pretty much wraps up this video. Like, I really enjoyed the movie. It was a fun movie. I'm going to see it for a second time. I have the first movie on DVD, and the second one is definitely going to be part of my collection. So I can't wait for this movie to drop, add it to my collection. I'm going to watch them both, part 1 and part 2 in order, straight through. I'm going to binge it. So I'm really looking forward to it. So if you enjoyed this review, let me know in the comment section below. If you've seen the movie, let me know if you enjoyed it or not, and what do you think about the introduction of Shadow coming into the third movie, and what the potential story arc is going to be for that. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date for more gaming news, video game reviews, movie reviews, and all that sorts of stuff. This is Mugen Lord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.